want Africa's solution to African problem, then we need to fund African Union and not the West. 96%, I had like more than 1,000 people voted, 96%, they said we're willing to pay for it. Only 4%, pretty much maybe they're not African, they choose, they say, we are not willing to pay for it. So I tagged African Union as African Union, what is the excuse? Yeah. Come with a plan, tell us how much we need to pay.
And we will pay.
We'll pay. We are going to organize our youth so that we can pay for that to support our fund. Right now, I'm coming with initiative because I want Africans to fund African Union. We want that. So we want to look at the budget, and we saw the budget is like 600 million USD, which is nothing. Like if we all come together, even if we give just a single dollar, you know, to support. So I wanna, you know, I wanna us eventually to start supporting them so that they may do their work effectively, just like the same way they did, you know, to bring Ethiopia's peace. Like this is kudos to African Union. I think they can be more effective if Africans we fund it. And we are in a position to do that, and they can use people like us to organize our people in the diaspora, our people in the continent, just to fund African Union with conditions of not receiving any donation from the West. Second, to be honest and transparent about how much money is coming and how it's being used, you know, but also to give position to the youth.
Thank you. Thank you. It's time, you guys.
To step in. It's time to step in.
It's time for you guys to step in, start taking charge, whether it is by volunteering and going in to see what's going on, but at least you can get some kind of knowledge.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Thank you so much.
I will be right there supporting you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
You've been in Ethiopia several times. You've visited quite a few places, starting from our beautiful science museum. You have gotten the opportunity to actually even get a vision and get the inside of our Adwa museum, which I would love to ask. That's also one of my questions. What did you think of all of that? But how do you think, by having all these amazing big museums, it would help Africans?
I think it is very important to remember who we are. And I think this time coming to Ethiopia, that was my two message. First, focus on the light. And I was speaking that and I was being criticized that, how can I focus on light? My brother and sister being killed and this and that and that. And I was simply saying that, you know, when you're in the deep darkness and then you turn on the light, the darkness disappears. Sometimes you cannot change anything but saying something. Sometimes you just need to focus on the light, and light is God. And when you do that, then the rest will follow. It's actually taking responsibility to focus on the positivity. And the second one is remember who you are, or who we are. So looking at all these museums, how can it help, you know, Africa and even country in particular? It reminds us of who we are. It reminds us where we came from. And history is what inspires you to move forward for the past, to look at where you are, what you have done mistake in the past, or what you did good, and oh, we've done that, we can do it again. Let's move forward. Remember. Remembrance is the very important word in our lives. So I think in that sense, it can do that. Also, we have new generations every single day coming up, right? And due to global climate change these days, we might lose some of our old, ancient stuff, right? It always happens. And having museum, it's a place where our children can go and learn, you know, and get that sense, a feeling of, you know, who we really are, pretty much the same thing. You know, and as well as it's just a way of reserving our history. Back in the days when colonizers came, they took away our heritages, you know. And right now, they're getting actually a lot of money because they have our artifacts in their museum.
Yes.
So, but if we bring them back, where are we going to put them? We need to have our own museums where we can put our own artifacts. And by the way, bring back our heritage. That's one of our missions.
Just a little point out there.
Yeah.
So now I want you to paint, because
Yes.
you imagine, you have a certain way that you are imagining Africa, like all of us do, right?
Yes.
So I want you to paint us your Africa, what you imagine Africa to be in the next 10 years, the next 5 years too, if we're good, you know. We can now close our eyes and imagine your Africa.
Oh, God. Let me say, you know, I wish I can read because I've done that before. Thank you so much for that question. That's a really beautiful question. I've done that imagination before and I wrote down. Do you mind if I read it?
Absolutely not. I would love
Let
that.
me read it.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagined that before. So this is what I wrote. I envision a world where there's a unit, peace and love because of equal access to opportunity for everyone. In Africa where the people do not often feel it in their pockets or see it at dinner tables. These words, unit, peace and love, run a risk sounding hollow. True love, peace and unity can only come through initiative that promotes equality of opportunity. I envision Africa where everyone gets quality education and accessible health service. I envision Africa where no one will be scared to show their ethnicity, religion, or belief. I envision Africa where everyone can traverse freely without being scared of their safety. I envision Africa where everyone is respected for just being human, where love and peace are our reasons for being, giving is cherished, sacrifice and service for the benefit of others are honored. I envision Africa where integrity, honesty, and hard work are the core motivation for all people, especially those who lead us. I envision result-based leadership for my people. Yeah, so I did that before, and I know, you know, a lot of people, when they hear this or when I tell them, so Amika, you're very idealistic. But I'm like, it's always impossible until it's done. And I believe this can happen. And we are on a journey to do that, to unite our people, to unite this continent, the borderless continent. We have our tribes, we can be proud of them, but we cannot use them as a means of, you know, affecting others or killing others. You don't give life, you don't take life. We can just love, you know, love and, you know, cherish peace, because that is the most important thing. In war, there's no winner in war, you know. And so that's what I envision, and I hope I will go across the continent of Africa to spread that message, because I know our people are very smart and they listen, and we're gonna get it done.
Beautiful. Thank you. When you just mentioned the borderless Africa, I wanted to ask you about the passport.
Yes.
Would we be, is it going to be a visa free, is my question.
Yes.
When we do get that, can I just have that and just come to you, go there?
The first thing that we can do, we can take this process slowly. We can first have visa on arrival. For example, Ethiopia have done that. If we have that, then it actually loosen up a little bit of the restriction that we have. So we can start slowly. Like we have all of us, we have African passports, but we can still travel anywhere to get visa on arrival, which is still possible, you know, to enter to the other side. But then as days go on, we can loosen up things.
Yeah, exactly. Because one thing I do know is when you do have an American passport, you can go to Europe with no visa.
Oh, yeah.
It's open. So
even in Africa, in some countries. Yeah.
Thank you. So that's what we need to achieve that.
Indeed.
Because just the visa issues are always also other issues.
Oh, so. let me add something on that. You know, when colonizers came and divided us through the borders, when our ancestors asked for independence, you know what they did? They were like, okay, we're going to give you independence, but you're not going to cross this border without the passport and the visa. So this passport and visa is still the system that colonizers, they put it for us. That's why right now we need to take advantage of that, actually. For me, I would say that I wish we don't have visa to travel anywhere. But I still, you know, respect the sovereignty of every single country and whatever the system are there. So I think we can do that. And as long as we have this African Union passport, then, things will be pretty much easier than we think. We've never tried it before, so let's try and see what's going to happen.
How can we achieve the change we want?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like what you want, what you see for Africa, what I see might be different.
Yes.
But so how collectively do we change?
I think we all have different priorities, but when it comes to Africa, we can all agree on certain important matters.
All right.
For instance, we can talk about food security. In this age of time, it's shame that we have our brothers and sisters dying because they don't have food. And second, it's shame that we import food from the outside. And we have a beautiful continent, so fertile land. And it's a shame that, we import food in our countries and we take away the opportunities to our farmers. Because if you import food, our farmers, they cannot do anything, right? And so in order for us to change, to see the change that we need, I think we need to become that change. Right, we need to agree on the priorities of Africa, that our priorities is not to have long building. It's important to have them, but that's not so good, right? We need to make sure that nobody is dying because of shortage of food. We need to provide food on the table to our people. We need to make sure that we have security. We need to make sure that we have a good education system for our kids, and we need to make sure that we have the basic needs, shelter, water,
basic
clean and electricity. These days, even internet is basic need, So all these things, I think, if our government and our policymakers will focus on that, then know that, okay, what do we need to give to our people? You might have a lot of good stuff going on, but what about the well-being of the people? I think that people are the most important thing than anything else. And let's focus on our people first. Let's focus on ourselves, to change ourselves, to become the change that the continent need. The reason why I started to do what I'm doing, because my plan in 2016, it was to become a leader of my country. And I was like, when I become 45, I'll run for the office, right? But I asked myself, what am I going to do from now until 45?
Right.
Then I realized that I can be president right now. So I was like, I'm not going to wait to run for the office. I am the president. So I started to work, and right now we're here.
That's beautiful. Well said. Do you feel a certain irritation amongst young population against the Europeans and the Americans?
Yeah.
What do you think is the crucial connector between feeling irritated and doing something about it?
Yeah, that's really good. I love your questions, man. Ah, man. Well, I was talking to someone. It's funny you asked this question. And, basically, I think that person was basically telling me that, Mika, you're very direct. you're too direct, basically. That's the sense, that the feeling I got. And I realized that every time when Africans stand to speak the truth, it's wrong. It's wrong for them because you are exposing the truth and you'll have backlash.
Like Kanye West right now?
Exactly. Yeah. Even African leaders, when they stand and they do, there's always backlash.
Absolutely.
So I question myself, are we really independent? Because we're supposed to be doing everything on our own, saying whatever we want to say as long as we're not breaking the law. For our people, it's our continent, we deserve to say anything. But why there has to be a backlash? That means there's something wrong somewhere. So I think a lot of young people are intimidated because of series of different events happened in the past to some of our leaders that were taken down. Or these days when you see sanctions, happen to this country, that country. So a lot of people are scared to speak. Also being cancel culture is the big thing these days in America. And, so people are scared to speak the truth. They're intimidated to do that. But I think the reason why Africa is sanctioned, or, the reason why we're not doing what we're supposed to do is because we are adapting this culture of individualism. If you stand alone as a country against them, I don't see the win. I don't see. But if all of us, we come together and we speak, you are not going to sanction Africa because you need Africa. Let me say that again. You need Africa and you're not going to sanction Africa, but we can sanction you.
Thank you.
You sanction one country, sanction the entire continent. Yeah. They ain't going to do that because they need Africa. We don't need them. Exactly. Okay, I believe that as a human race, we need one another, I believe. But in this age of time, Africa is the only continent that can sustain itself without anyone, if we come together. But now we are not together. That's why we actually look at them. Yeah. I got this analogy the other day that back in the day, they came with the guns. So we're able to defend ourselves and to fight against them. Today, they come with money. It's the most dangerous thing. Money is the most dangerous thing than gun, guys. Yeah. And we still, accept it. So I think the point is, instead of being intimidated, stand up and do something about it. not one, but us collectively. Because today, you know, they can take me down, but there's the huge community that I created, they will still stand and speak the same thing. So that voice, you'll never shut it down. They did to our leaders back in the days. We're still here standing, speaking the same message.
That's what's, in a way, it's sad. We're still fighting the same fight.
Yeah.
Recently,
Yes.
our government decided to stop importing several things. For example, cars, human hair, fruit juices, and so on and so forth. So, you know, some people are very upset, and some people think this is good, because then now maybe we can start doing things for us. So now, do you think this kind of measures encourages local production capacity and innovation, like in Cuba? Because, you know, Cuba just shut down all doors and they did their thing.
Inside,
yes.
You know, it's really sad when you have people who do not believe in themselves. And I'm going to say this very careful that, you know, my message says, remember who you are. We have, as Africans, we must believe in ourselves.
Absolutely.
In our ability. And we must believe in our creation and innovation. That we are that smart enough to do anything, anytime. And at the same time, we need the support from the government to help us to actualize all those ideas, because the things that we can do by ourselves, the things that we can. So in this particular question that you ask, you know, I hope the system that the particular government is creating for the people is to, of course, to motivate you guys to design to do those things by yourself, at the same time supporting. Because if you close the door and then you're not showing the way, then you are leaving people hanging around. But if you do both things, then it helps people to, you know, you lift people up.
So producing.
Exactly. So for me, I think it's a positive thing on my side, because, you know, I believe in the Black excellence, and I see Black people doing a lot of good stuff outside of the continent. I mean, Black people, basically, they built United States, our ancestors, they did that. And we have that knowledge of architect. I went to Fasil Castle. You know, I was being shown all this design that our people designed them long time ago, and they're still standing. That is Black power, man. Like, that's Battle of Adwa. Africans, Blacks, like, overcame, fought, and this country was never colonized because of that. That is the ability that African people we have. Don't you dare to forget for a second that if something is not going to come from outside, you're not going to survive, you're not going to live. No, you have a brain, you have mind, you have God. You can do anything you want to do. You understand what I'm saying? Step up your game and do something. We can transform this continent by ourselves, and we need to do that for the next generation, because if we don't do that, then where this Africa is going to be after 10, 20 years to come.
Now we're going to take you to CO. Because you have a certain connection with that place. I would like to know what your connection is, even though I know you said you did go there and you lived there for 9 years. I mean, I lived in the States for 20 years. I have no connection. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, though, right? That connection. I mean, I have friends, I have relatives, but
something is missing.
Yes. So, but you have that link to the point where you even hosted the first biggest African festival out there. So I would like to know how that went about. Why didn't you do it in Tanzania, for example?
That's a good question. So when I decided to go to Korea, I went for a reason. I was not kind of guy that was like, oh, I'm just going to Korea. No, I sat down and I say, I want to go to Korea because 50, 60 years ago, Korea and my country were the same level economically. Right now, I can't compare these two countries. Why? That was my curiosity. So I applied for my bachelor degree, economics, South Korea, and I went there. I started. So I think that connection I already found even before I got there. So when I got there, I was just looking like, why? Why Korea? Why Korea? I graduated and I found the reason why, of course. And I think so because of that connection, and in South Korea, you know, that's when I began my mission to fight for Africa. I did for 9 years. I went to elementary school, I went to kindergarten, I went to high school, I went to middle school, everywhere. I was going to Korean school to teach Korean kids about African culture. to teach them language, to teach them what we eat, how we dance. What our lives like in Korean. I have videos on all over my YouTube, so I was doing that.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
And then later on, I started to do it on the camera because I was like, I'm working for Africa, representing them here, but what about my people? I'm not really telling them anything. So that's when I shifted my, my page, and I started to talk to my people that, okay, guys, we need to wake up. All right, I've seen enough. I've seen A, B, C, D. We can be here, but we need to do A, B, C, D. That's when I get preparation, details, and time. Those are things that I learned from there. Right? So in this concert, I was invited with this one organization that I'm an ambassador of. It's dealing with black people in South Korea. And so they invited me that, hey, we are hosting Soul Africa Festival. Please come, and you will sing, but as well you will, you'll host, you'll be an MC, me and my best friend from Nigeria. Yeah, so that's why we flew there, and it was incredible because majority of people in that place, they were not Africans. Yeah, there were Koreans and there were foreigners. So many people turn up. So many people turn up, and it was just incredible doing that for the first time outside of the continent. Yeah.
So you had a good turnout.
Yeah,
it was good. It was well received,
Yeah.
as you say.
Oh, that's where I got this T-shirt, by the way.
It's a beautiful T-shirt.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't know why we don't have those all over the place.
Yeah.
Why did you have to go all the way there to get a T-shirt that says Africa?
We're going to make our own T-shirt, OneAfrica, very soon. Stay tuned, guys.
Thank you. Yes, we do need it. You've gone around Ethiopia, visited a lot of places, and by now I know you have a clearer understanding of the country and the people.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, is the main obstacle for Ethiopians to have a Pan-African consciousness? I've also actually seen you interviewing young Ethiopians.
Yes,
I know they're here,
Yeah.
but there needs to be more, is my thing.
Exactly. First of all, let me start by saying I love Ethiopia so much. Second, I'm going to be brutal honest. So me and my friend, Pan-Africanists, all of us, Africans, were sitting there, and there were another Ethiopian young man. He was taking videos, and this guy was challenging. He was asking him, he was like, "Are you African?" He's like, "Yes, of course, I'm Ethiopian, I'm African." And so he told him that, okay, this is Ethiopia, this is Africa, choose one. I know it's really interesting question. This guy, he said, Ethiopia. I was like, then you're not African. It was a tricky question he asked him, but I understood why I asked him, because I think raising awareness of Pan-Africanism here in Ethiopia, being in Ethiopia, I realized Ethiopia are people that are very proud of their culture, proud of their history, proud of everything that they have. And I wonder sometimes, and not only in Ethiopia, but in other parts of Africa, I wonder how our parents taught us about Africa. I wonder if they promoted so much about our country and kind of like separate Africa. Like, let's say, for example, you are Ethiopian. They are African, you are Ethiopian. Or you are Tanzanian and they are African. I wonder if that is some of the message that we receive, some of us. So as we grow up, we're having hard time to embrace Africanism because we see ourselves different from Africa. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is an issue. I've seen it. I can take it I can speak it blankly that it's an issue. But going back to the place that, hey, you are an African before you're Ethiopian. I'm not Tanzanian before African. Well, we have to understand that. Like, Africa is the big picture. All right. And for always I said that Ethiopia is the mother of Africa. If you're the mother of Africa, you have a responsibility of entire Africa, you know what I'm
entire
saying?
nation, yes.
So I think it's something that our young people, they have to understand that you can be proud Ethiopian, very proud of your country and nationality, whatever it is, but do not forget that you are an African. Do not remember Africa when you're in trouble and leave it away when you are not in trouble, you know what I'm saying? So it's a message that I think the young people, they understand right now. And everything that has been going on in Ethiopia, you have seen the rise up of Africanism, the spirit of that. And I think we are on the right track. And the good thing in Ethiopia, you know, you have a leader who is also Pan-Africanist. He promotes Africanism more than a lot of leaders I know in Africa. Most of them, they just focus on their countries.
On their own, yeah.
But him, you know, His Excellency Abiy, he really tried to promote Africanism. Even this conference summit, it was the first youth leader summit that he initiated because he wanted to bridge, to connect between the old generation and
yeah.
youth.
It brings me joy to address you this afternoon because meeting young African leaders gives me big hope for this continent and for upcoming generation. Young African leaders, Africa's journey to prosperity is inevitable. Many things are working in Africa's favor. By 2030, 40% of global youth will be African. The next generation of African and global leaders is sitting among us you. I warmly congratulate former leaders and the families of the founders of the OAU for the well-deserved special award. Thank you for coming home. Thank you for coming home to inaugurate the first African Youth Leaders Conference.
So the ex-president of Ghana came, you know, here in Ethiopia also came, and some other old leaders came, and you could find that connection, you know, between these two. So I think this is the moment for Ethiopians to, you know, to stand up, you know, for Africa, you know, and it's the moment for Africans to stand up for Africans, you know, yeah, stand for Africa, stand for your country, and let's stand together, unite together, fight for this beautiful continent. And you guys, you're the mother of Africa, so you have that responsibility. Yes. There's no other way around.
So Mika, it was a pleasure having you here today and allowing me, you know, to pick your mind.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving us this time. Yeah. And I hope you have a lovely time, the rest of the time in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I appreciate so much. Thank you so much for having me. One Africa, our generation. One Africa, one passport.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. This was your Pan-African show called Africa with your host, Katsalork Seifu. Our guest today was Mika, and we appreciate him for being with us. Tune in on Arts TV on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Thank you very much.